Here's your Atlanta real estate market update. In September, the average days on market for all of the listings in Metro Atlanta was 31 days. And then in October, the average days on market was 33 days. And then in November, 31 days again. So this has kind of become the norm during this season of the year. We're at about 30 days. And this is pretty much what we're seeing. Most of the listings that are going on the market at this time are lasting about 30 days. For the houses that are super move-in ready and they're perfect and the pictures are perfect and the listing is perfect and the price is priced well, like those houses still go off the market in about 2, maybe 3 weeks. And then of course there's the homes that like the pictures are terrible and the house sucks and it needs a lot of work and it's priced terribly. Those houses stay on the market for much longer, sometimes 60 days or even 90 days, or very often they can't even sell at all and they just take the house off of the market. And so 30 days is pretty much what we're seeing for the average. What's up, y'all? My name is Victor with Atlanta Suburban Living. We put out videos every week about what it's like to live in Atlanta and the suburbs of Atlanta, and every once in a while we talk about what the real estate market is doing. Another important number to look at is how many homes have come on the market in Metro Atlanta. In September there was 5,036 homes that came on the market, and then in October it was 5,108 homes, and in November a big jump down, 3,489 homes came on the market in November. And so this is pretty typical now that Halloween is over and we got closer to Thanksgiving. Many people know to not try to list their home during the holidays, and so that's why we saw that big jump down in the amount of new homes that came on the market. But the super surprising thing, and this has kind of been the case for a while now, is how many homes have sold compared to how many homes have come on the market. When it comes to the number of homes sold in Metro Atlanta, in September it was 2,800 homes, in October it was 2,900 homes, and in November 2,100 homes. And so this is very important because we're seeing there are half as many buyers as there are sellers. Like for example, in September 5,000 new homes came on the market, 5,000 sellers, but in September there was only 2,800 homes actually purchased. And so half as many buyers as there are sellers, and this is like proof positive that we are in a buyer's market. There are way more sellers than there are buyers. By no means saying that it's easy to buy a home. That's a very different thing. Unfortunately, home prices have gone up significantly. Interest rates are still very high. But when it comes to who has the advantage, buyer or a seller in a real estate transaction, right now, the buyers have the advantage. This is very different than it was, 2 or 3 years ago when interest rates were 3% and there was a ton of buyers. During that time, the sellers had the advantage. There was less sellers than there were buyers. Now there are more sellers than there are buyers, and so buyers are getting their closing costs paid for. They're getting repairs on homes done very easily. They're even getting, sometimes sellers will pay for the buyers to be able to lower their interest rate, which we're going to talk about in just a sec. So let's talk about what the interest rates are doing right now. If you're thinking about buying a home in Metro Atlanta, or you just have any questions about what it's like to live here, feel free to call, text, or email me anytime. I'm a local realtor here in the area. Thank you so much to everybody who has reached out. Even if you just have a question about what it's like to live here, I'm more than happy to help. But let's take a look at interest rates. In September, the average interest rate was about 6.35%. And then in October, the average interest rate was 6.25%. And in November, again, 6.2%. Now, keep in mind, this is the average. I actually worked with multiple clients who have had interest rates even below 6%. One client I worked with had an interest rate of 5.75% for a 30-year fixed rate, 3% down. And so 5.75 is really like on the low end, but is totally doable in this market. And then what I was saying earlier, it is common for sellers to pay for you to be able to lower your interest rate. This has kind of become the norm now that we're in a buyer's market. And so what we do is we submit an offer for a home let's say it's a $500,000 home and we submit an offer for less than $500,000, by no means do you need to pay the list price in this market because the buyer has the advantage. So we submit an offer for $480,000 or $490,000 for that $500,000 home, and we ask this seller to pay your lender to lower the interest rate. This has become super normal, and so instead of maybe paying 5.75% for an interest rate, you can probably get it down to 5.65 or 5.6 for an interest rate. And so this is the kinds of things that we're seeing in this buyer's market. Another big one that many people want to know is the average home prices. And so let's talk about that. In all of Metro Atlanta in September, the median sold price for a home was $412,000, and then in October came down to $403,000, and in November $410,000. And so we kind of saw a bit of a dip down and then a bit of a dip up in November, but I suspect that throughout the rest of this winter, we will see home prices coming down a bit until we get back to the spring, which is the busy season for buyers. In the springtime, maybe around February or March, we'll see a lot of buyers come back into the market, getting ready for that school year to end in the summertime, which is when most people want to move. And so we'll see these home prices start to creep back up around March or April. A lot of times, many real estate agents will tell their clients that like the spring is the best time to buy or that the winter is the best time to buy. In my opinion, it's not better or worse during either one of these seasons. Keep in mind that while there are less buyers in the winter, there's also less sellers. There's going to be more sellers in the springtime, so you have more options during the springtime. It really just kind of depends on your situation. It's really a supply and demand issue. You'll have more supply during the spring, but you'll have more buyer competition. And then in the winter, you'll have less supply, so less options, but you'll have less competition among buyers. And so again, really depends on your situation for which one is the best or right time to buy. If I had to pick a month that was like the best time of the whole year to buy, I would say it's maybe February. February is kind of the time of the year where you get sellers who have been waiting during the holidays to start listing their home, and then you're beating the buyer rush of the spring. So you kind of catch a bit of a sweet spot if you're a buyer right there around February, maybe early March. As a real estate agent who sees houses every week with buyers, and we go to look at houses, and I'm actually like boots on the ground seeing what the housing market is looking like, what I see every week is that we're seeing buyers looking at 5 to 10 homes per week and then picking the best looking one out of that group. But very often we will go from house to house and we'll have buyers looking at the same exact houses, and they'll look at the same group of 10 houses coincidentally, and it's like the best one out of that 10, the best house, the one that's the most move-in ready, that's priced the best in the best neighborhood. That's the house that gets all of the offers, where the rest of that group of houses currently for sale in the area or the neighborhood does not get offers. And those are the ones that sit on the market for a long time. And so this has kind of been the phenomenon that we've been seeing for over a year now. The housing market is pretty much a beauty contest. The best looking houses are the ones that get bought, and the houses that are not so nice looking, they sit on the market for quite a while. Let's also look at some specific parts of Metro Atlanta to understand what the housing market is doing, not just in all of the Metro Atlanta area, but some specific areas like Cobb County. In Cobb County, we have Marietta, Kennesaw, Acworth, Smyrna. In September in Cobb County, the average sold price for a home was $450,000, and then in October it came down a bit to $447,000, and in November, $445,000. Again, we're going to kind of see this slow creeping down until the spring. And then one of everybody's favorite cities in Metro Atlanta is Alpharetta. What we've seen here in Alpharetta in September, the average sold price was $800,000. In October, it shot way up, surprisingly, to $900,000. And then in November, it came down a bit to $835,000. Not typical to see such a big, drastic change in the average home price, but this is what we get sometimes with a small sample size. There was only 84 homes sold in September in Alpharetta, 88 homes sold in October in Alpharetta, and 70 in November. So With a smaller sample size, sometimes we see that big jump, but in general, I think what the takeaway here is that the average home price in Alpharetta is right there between $850,000 and $900,000. And then another popular area of Metro Atlanta is Gwinnett County. We have cities like Suwanee, Duluth, Buford, Lawrenceville. These are the cities that are in Gwinnett County. In September, the average sold price was $425,000. In October, it was $420,000, and in November, $415,000. Again, we're going to see that downward slope until about March or April of next year, where home prices will start to creep back up. But by far, one of the biggest questions that I get from many people is, why are there so many homes still on the market? Like when you look at Zillow or you look at any one of these home selling apps, you start to see that there are so many homes, and they're very often lasting 90, 120, 150 days. And so I made an entire video outlining why these homes in Metro Atlanta are still on the market. You can check out that video right here. I'll see you in the next one.